Greetings. I'm Robert Franklin, president of Morehouse College, here in Atlanta, Georgia, on our historic Century campus. 40 years ago, this peaceful landscape was the site of a sea of humanity, men and women, black and white, rich and poor, Christian and Muslim, who came to mourn the death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Morehouse's most notable alumnus.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
The story of Dr. King and Morehouse began many years before that fateful day. It was in these buildings that Martin, or Mike King as he was known then, studied great thinkers such as Henry David Thoreau, Howard Thurman, and Mahatma Gandhi. It was here on this campus that the foundation was laid for King to craft some of the greatest works of the 20th century, including I Have a Dream speech and the Nobel Peace Prize speech of 1964. It was here that seeds were sown that would one day bear fruit as a vision for a world house, a global community free of war, poverty, and racism. And it's here that we hold 10,000 pieces of his personal artifacts, speeches, and sermons, many in his own handwriting, in the Morehouse College Martin Luther King Jr. collection. Join us now as we lock arms in virtual space, connecting the global community in a historic webcast dialogue on King's prophetic vision of a world house.
Today is April 4th, 2008.
When we started the first global cast and those faces start coming onto the large screen, then you start hearing voices on those large screens.
Joining us from Kenya now is Professor Benson Wambore. Greetings, Professor. How are you doing today? Jambo.
Jambo sana.
Kamcho, or hello in India. Greetings to you both.
We are very, very happy to be part of this program.
South Africa, can you hear us?
Good afternoon, I can hear you.
Oh, great.
And then you start hearing dialogue on that screen.
I wonder if you, in America, appreciate how black youth throughout the world actually look up to you as Americans as role models.
And then you had community on that screen.
Dr. Walter Fluker is standing by at the U.S. Embassy in Beijing, China.
And these people were all around the globe.
My question deals with the leadership. How do we end the corruption that we see in the leadership that we find in so many African countries?
If you are to pick one pitfall, moral pitfall in leadership, I would say it is self-interest where it overrides a common good.
How do we build our arsenal of non-violence in everyday life?
It's a real world, it's a tough world, and you're going to have to face it, and hopefully face it with love and confidence, understanding, and without violence. And it's possible.
The only thing that is going to save our people, especially young black children, is over-educating yourself. If you do not over-educate yourself, you will most certainly be eradicated.
This is the very best of Dr. King, distilled on paper. But let's face it, this is a closed canon. Dr. King will never write another word, and so these words are special, they're important to study, to cherish, to preserve, and protect, which Morehouse is doing, along with the help of Woodruff Library.
Montgomery story, Martin Luther King.
But beyond that, Dr. King continues to teach and inspire and instruct, and that's our job, to update and extend Dr. King's values and his messages to a global audience.
How do we bring together a global community around these issues and then be able to discuss them interactively? About 5 or 6 months ago, we talked about the King Papers.
An idea occurred to me that if scholars have to come to Atlanta, that's very limiting. So I arranged to have a trip. We went down to the University of Florida.
We have the idea and the resources. We lack the technology.
That's the first feed. Make sure it's actually switching at 1920.
Video conferencing itself is nothing new. What we've been doing is actually creating multiple channels of video conferencing and then embedding that into other artistic and cultural environments.
We saw the kind of common ground that we were creating basically in the spirit of what Dr. King envisioned 50 years ago, in terms of having this large white Southern institution and this small black African American institution partner together. We saw that in real time.
From that initial meeting came this embryonic idea, well, let's do something.
If tenants of the WorldHouse refuse to exterminate the issues of racism, poverty, and war that plague society's abode, the infestation will cause the foundation of the WorldHouse to crumble.
My name is Eric Vickers. At the Webcast, I was assigned to present a portion of my winning essay to the WorldHouse.
We know that you consider yourself, sir, to be a lifelong student of Dr. King. And yet there is somewhat of an ironic twist to your story. Why don't you share that with everyone?
Well, I learned that the same issues that Dr. King talked about in 1967 and in 1968 are still realities in 2008.
If you want to be a part of something special, if you want to be a part of having Dr. King's vision realized in this millennium, then as a donor, I would want to be involved.
We asked to be involved. This is something that we feel very strongly about. I see people sponsoring race cars and power boats and things like that, but that doesn't save a lot of kids that are in peril.
To be able to look into the eyes of my maker and not die, to spread my angelic wings across
I feel that more now than ever that I'm a part of this WorldHouse and that I have a great responsibility and accountability to my peers that are growing up in my generation and the generation that is coming before me.
Now, as I retreat to this vault alone with these papers, I just have a deep sense of contentment and excitement and anticipation for what we'll do next time around.